Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
It feels a little while since I've done a people's poll with you, James. Normally, Clayton's been in the hot seat for the last few. I almost introduced this as a Patreon pod, but it's not. It's a people's poll discussing the topics that people want discussed.
Sometimes. I'm not sure I agree
Sometimes.
with their vote again this time, maybe.
I don't agree with their vote. I wanted option number one. What did you want?
What was option number one?
I forget from memory, but you had it down on the list. When I remember when you sent it to me, I was like, I hope people pick the top option on the list.
I think it was option one, I think, was Halls so far, wasn't
Halls. It was Halls
Yeah,
because I was really interested in how it feels to me. Like there's been so many more double-digit hauls this year than previously, but I didn't have the facts to back it up. So I was like, okay, cool. Maybe that's something we should explore. It was exactly that.
Okay, patrons, if any of you want to do the research on that and send it our way, that would be great. So yeah, there were three options for the people's poll, one of which was that to look at hauls so far this season, I guess 10 plus digit returns, of which Heung-min Son against West Ham Suj is now not one of them.
Double digit, not 10 digit. That'd be
Did I say 10 digit? Sorry.
Yeah.
That would be the sort of haul that would have given many actual green arrow this week. Actually,
Chris Wood scoring. I can't remember who tweeted it. If Chris Wood scores 188 goals, he'll be able to match the all-time Premier League top goal scorer.
Shout out to FPL Cricketer, one of our patrons, who had double Forest defence and Chris Wood last night. I think he scored more than that. That was Sells as well. Was keeper one the defences. I think that scored more than many teams this week. Imagine that getting outscored by Nottingham Forest. What a state of it. Yes, Heung-min Son's assist removed. By the way, do you just want to cover that quick?
Was it?
Yeah, I did not know.
I didn't know. No, I was out of the loop with what was going on Tinternet yesterday. It's been removed, has it?
Yeah, ultimately, I think it's
People Power has won. The cartel have had their way again.
Maybe. Well, here's the thing: didn't the cartel buy Sun? So I'm somewhat confused.
Yeah.
I think People Power has spoken up a little bit here, and it has. Do you know what? Their process over it has been shit. But ultimately, I think they've made the decision that I think even most people who own Heung-min Son would agree and go, yeah, this is not really an assist, is it? Other option to vote for was a potential look at what a Gameweek 12 wildcard template may look like. Because I think people need to be careful at the moment with what they're doing with moves. I think we're in a little bit of a dead space at the moment where the fixtures are tough for a number of teams, including some of the premium assets we're about to talk about. And I think Game Week 12, for many, it swings back around. And I know there's a number of people setting up to wildcard then. So I wanted to have a look at it to see for those who are managing through, which I think is going to be the majority of us at the moment, to bear in mind what that wildcard template in 12 might look like. To add to the spice of that, although we're not going to cover it today, Clayton is on my case saying he wants the wildcard now. I told him, don't do that, mate. And he's come back to me this morning. He said, I'm about 70% I'm going to do it. So we're going to cover that off a little bit tomorrow in terms of why he thinks he wants to do it now.
The Clayton and James show, I highly recommend that, listeners. Make sure you're subscribed and you'll get notified when that goes live. If you haven't had a listen already, James, it's a good show. I think people would like it.
Intro's good, isn't it, when I do it?
When you do it. All you do on your intro is all the intros are shit, so I'm doing the intro. Do a proper intro. Go on. My intro was good. My intro was not me doing the intro. Clayton's supposed to do my intro, but he can't.
Yeah, no, he can't. No. So that's why I have to do it. What we are covering today is premium midfielders in FPL and our thoughts on them. We are defining that at the moment, I think, as 6 players. So that's Mo Salah, Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, Heung-min Son, and Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden, neither of which obviously started at the weekend. The word on Kevin De Bruyne, by the way, was back in training yesterday, which I don't know. What does that mean? Him and Foden are now both going to play?
It means that get your triple captain back on Haaland, kids, if you were thinking about it, is what it means more than anything else.
It is good news for Haaland. If De Bruyne is back fit, I think that's fairly clear, actually. Is that right, though, to define it as these players, or should we be factoring in Bruno Fernandes, Martin Odegaard. He doesn't feel that way to me
I tell you what, what's I would leave those guys out. Odegaard, obviously, we're not seeing until next year anyway, so it's largely irrelevant.
No, he might be back in a couple of weeks, Suj.
Oh, is it? I thought it was end of the year. Fair play.
No, he could be back soon.
Yeah, I think for now it would be fair to look at these six. I think the other thing that's really interesting is obviously when you talk about price points, between Ollie Watkins and Erling Haaland in the forwards bracket is nobody, but between Erling Haaland and Ollie Watkins is all of these players.
Yes.
So that's why there's kind of this gap. There's no gap, there's nothing to fill with strikers or obviously defenders. So they become your next go-to place for premium assets is this block of players.
Watkins and Foden now the same price.
Is Watkins up to 9.5, is he?
No, Foden's 9.1.
Foden's dropped 9.1. Foden started at 9.5, didn't he?
Yeah, I think that's right. KDB's now 9.4. Watkins is 9.1.
Okay.
I wanted to have a look at them because it's something I've mentioned a few times recently, but I think there's a little bit of a danger. And I think people are coming to this way of thinking a little bit in terms of Haaland. And I spoke yesterday about he's very unlikely to blank again at the weekend. But if he did do so and say, Mo Salah and Cole Palmer both have a really good weekend, then people might want to head down that route, particularly if Bukayo Saka is maybe out as well. It sounds like he's not going to play for Arsenal tonight. We don't know about his availability as yet for Sunday. But Haaland is obviously very difficult to sell. And there is a clear theme for the one player that people don't have, who people seem most desperate for at the moment, Suj, is
Cole Palmer.
Correct. And I think there is a danger here for people that if they have Haaland and Palmer, which is of course absolutely fine, and they want to go down this route, that they might block themselves off of the other 5 premium midfielders here. Because Palmer is, with the fixtures that Chelsea have from Gameweek 12 right up till the end of March, unless his form hits the skids, he's going to become as difficult to sell as Haaland always is if you ever want to sell him. And I think there's a danger from a structure perspective that people are going to miss out on some of these players. Is that something that's on your mind at the moment?
A little bit, yes. So I think Haaland, Cole Palmer, is a very easy replacement for me for Saka should Saka not be available. But that doesn't mean that I won't then sell Erling Haaland in a couple of weeks because I still need to free up more money. The other thing with Cole Palmer as the one that people want to get to is the 3 yellow cards. And I'm not going to lie, it's quite off-putting for me right now.
He's going to get booked into the next 3, isn't he?
And that's the big concern with Cole Palmer. Is exactly that. Is he's on 3 yellow cards, whereas the others are all doing a lot better. I think it's only Saka's got 1 and KDB's got 1. No one else has got any.
Correct.
I think the player that I should be looking to get is actually Mo Salah.
Why?
Just consistency is ridiculous. I mean, he's the top point scorer for a reason right now, right? Well, let me rephrase that. I think I want to get 2 out of these 6 players eventually, but the only way I can do that is either by losing Ollie Watkins or losing Erling Haaland.
Salah over the next 6 plays 4 of the expected top 8, and I would argue another one of those fixtures against the expected 9th place finisher in Brighton over the next 6.
Yeah, but he's doing so well at the moment. 5 double-digit hauls in the first 8 weeks.
Yeah, and yet prior to Chelsea game, it was all he's too wide, and Jota had scored against Palace. Diaz had been matching him at parts this season. Oh, right, those 2 are both off the table again. You're drawn back to that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Mark and Az having a really good conversation about Jota and Diaz versus Salah a couple of weeks ago on Black Box, about that they can't cover him, but they might take away from some of his output. So if suddenly we feel, I'm a Jota owner, there'll be plenty of others sitting there saying Diaz who are particularly concerned at the moment because obviously Gakpo started ahead of him at the weekend. If you haven't got any faith in those 2 other players, you are ultimately completely drawn to look again at Mo Salah.
Yeah,
I am.
Yeah.
because Jota now looks like a problem for me, right? Literally before the weekend, I'm going, Jota, he's not going to match Mo Salah, but for the saving of 5 odd million here, and I can use that 5 million elsewhere, this is okay. To the extent I've captained Jota against Chelsea at the weekend, right?
Hmm.
That doesn't feel the case now. I too am looking at it going, yeah, Mo, I always want to keep within reach. Despite I'm more likely to head towards Salah than Haaland. I've obviously gone
Yeah.
without both so
Yeah.
far.
I think one of the things that is underrated in my mind as well is the extra point that you can pick up for a clean sheet or a goal over a long period does add up a little bit. It might be 20, 30 points over a season for someone like a Salah. If there's 10, 15 clean sheets in there and he gets you 15 goals, that's 30 points extra over a striker. I don't really know how the BPS has been affected for midfielders, to be honest with you. I haven't particularly looked at it. But I'm assuming, Mo Salah, he's 3 or 2 bonus points every time he's picked up a double digit. Or
He's going to be.
yeah,
When he gets double digits, he will do, won't he?
He's
When he's scoring
picked up.
just one, it might be like 7, 8 pointers. That seems to be the
Well,
thing.
he's only he's only done that once this season. That was
So
the Bournemouth
feast or
game.
famine, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
But
Sorry, no, he got 1 assist. The one game that he scored 1 goal in, Wolves and Brentford, he scored 1 goal in. 3 bonus against Wolves,
yeah.
2 bonus against Brentford.
You know what that is, though? There's a little bit of influence on that.
The winning goal, maybe 2-1
No,
against Wolves.
against Wolves, the other 2 goal scorers were Kanate and Ait Nori.
Right.
And we know, like, if defenders aren't keeping clean sheets, they find it really difficult to get in the bonus now. So you've got Mo scoring and you've got the other 2 goal scorers were defenders. Yeah, Mo's going to get the full bonus, basically.
Yep.
So I, at the moment, have Saka and Palmer. And what I'd like to do is stay around the structure of having 2 players. Palmer, for me, now in a position where I've owned him since game week 3 and he's constantly on the rise in value, and almost feels like with him, almost irrespective of what he does in the next 3 weeks, is probably still going to be once you get to that game week 12 turn of fixtures. He's kind of sticking there. I'm going to find him very difficult to sell at any point, aren't I? Unless he gets injured.
Very difficult.
So what I don't want to do, if like Saka's ruled out, I could go Saka down to Garnacho and I'll start finding the money to go up towards another forward or move the money about in a different way. I don't want to cut myself off of the other 5 premium players from the midfield position for me. So I could, for example, this week, Jota to Garnacho. Once I make that move, there's 2 things I can do, right? With the money, I can go like Vardy to Jackson, which I think looks good. By the way, I was looking at Jackson's data last night. His XG per 90 is only just below Erling Haaland at the moment. Or I can go Saka to Salah. And once I've gone Saka to Salah, what I've also done, I've cut myself off of that move of, say, Vardy to Jackson, but I can still move Solanke to Jackson in a couple of weeks at that same kind of spin turn. When others might be looking to buy Palmer in 12, I might be looking, I'm going to buy Jackson in 12 instead when Tottenham go to Man City that day.
You can do that because you don't own Erling Haaland.
I'm taking on my strategy, I'm taking on 1 player.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned for people that they're going to end up taking on 5. Salah, Palmer, Saka, KDB, Foden. It's not to say you can't have teams with Salah and Haaland and that sort of thing, because there are so many good enablers this year in the likes of, McNeil, Semenyo, Rodgers, Fulham players, Chris Woods, goal again last night, right? Cheaper price. João Pedro's injured. He's going to be popular at like 5.3 or 5.4 whenever he's back available. So you can fill out your team with these sort of players as well and possibly try and squeeze in like Salah, Palmer, Haaland, but we know it's mad tough. And you also cut yourself off your likes of Trent if you want to do that sort of thing as well. If you had to have 2 of these players all season, is it Salah and Palmer?
Yes, because they're the ones that I'd be most happy captaining, I would say. KDB can't rely on his fitness. Foden in and out. Son is Tottenham. So if I had to have 2 for the whole season.
Do you really say that this week?
Yeah. It's Tottenham. Don't worry. Listen, if you look at the last 18 months, you cannot say that Heung-min Son is anywhere near the Heung-min Son of the 18 months prior to that. Versus Salah and versus Palmer. Nah, I'm not attacking. No problem. You'll score a lot of goals, but I just don't see Sonny as the most important person in that attack anymore. I actually would argue maybe, well, in recent times, Kulu has shown himself to be almost the most important for you at the moment, and maybe Solanke. I think it'd be Salah and Palmer. Do you know what? The point you made there, though, that's actually one to really double down on, is that you are taking on one player and others are going to be taking on more than one player. From that list right now, you own two. I own only one, which is Saka. But the problem I have in the rest of my midfield, which going most expensive to cheapest, is Bomo, Smith Rowe, Rodgers, Dibbling. That gap to
you ain't
get
selling
up
Bomo
to,
either, by the way.
No, exactly that. Right. So now I'm talking Smith Rowe, Rodgers, Dibbling. So the gap to get to any of these is monstrous.
That's what I'm saying.
And that's when I look at it, I don't like it. Right, I'd even rather just be at the cheapest of this selection in Foden, because I'd feel like I could get up there. Even if I had Bruno Fernandes, I'd feel like I could get to one of these guys in one move. I'm far away. I don't see myself owning Erling Haaland long term, James. I can't sell him with the next couple, and it's going to hurt to sell him before he plays Spurs. But I think by game week 12, I think Erling Haaland's going to be gone from my team.
Do you consider selling him next week?
Yeah. Because here's the thing, right? If I don't make a transfer this week, let's just say Saka's fit, I've got 4 free transfers next week, James. And if not next week, then the week after, I'm up to 5 free transfers. At that point, I'm going to pull the trigger and do this mini wildcard.
Yeah, this is the fear. If you've got players like Bumo in, if Bumo is your second most expensive midfielder, this is a perfect case. To get up is wild.
It's hard, man. And the thing is, it's even like downgrading Trent, cool, but where am I going? 4.5. Like,
it's not getting you enough.
It's not. It's not. Even if I go like Aït-Nouri's flavour of the month at the moment, right? Or maybe Mikalenko from the cheapies, or maybe one of the Nottingham Forest guys. It's not enough to get me anywhere. So I need to. Now you're talking about 3 transfers. You had this problem with getting 2 Erling Haaland earlier in the season where it was a -8, right? So my problem is not the hit, because I've got 3 frees. My problem is I need to find the money, and the money's all tied up in Erling Haaland right now. You've got to remember, I do have Watkins and Solanke as my other 2 strikers. So I could always cheap out Watkins and Trent, for example, but they're premium assets in their own right, aren't they?
Erling Haaland so far has been bought by 20,000 people this week. He has been sold by 42,000. I would suggest that those 42,000 don't consider doing that this week. This conversation is not about this weekend.
No, this is it. Like, I kind of almost, I said it on the main pod, I can't even think of whatever has been in the past. The only thing I'm praying for is KDB to be fit for the game this weekend, because that automatically makes me more comfortable with Erling Haaland. But longer term, I'm going to be coming off him. I feel it.
It is the right strategy to have 2 of these players from this 6.
Well, there's no right strategy.
No, again, it's not. Look, I'm influenced because it's gone quite well for me so far, right? But I've also gone against Salah, and I'm talking about maybe making sure he's close. He's always close to me, whereas I've cut myself off. I haven't cut myself off for Haaland. If Watkins gets injured tonight or whenever Villa are playing, I might be buying him myself and just flipping that quickly.
Don't forget, Phil Foden was player of the season last year, PFA or whatever, whoever, writers or whichever one was player of the season. He started 1 game. He's not been even an option in the first quarter of the season. Now, if he gets into the team and starts delivering what he was delivering last season, again, he's there to talk about. From this list of 6, 2 have not even been options in KDB and Foden for the last few weeks, because they've not been in the team or been injured and not even got into it.
To go back to kind of the first part we were saying, is it right just to look at these 6 players? On the setup you've got at the moment, you can't get Fernandes or Odegaard either.
No, Not in one move.
if you decided you wanted to get towards them.
Mm.
So I think it's something for people to think about the structure. And if people are happy to take that on, that's perfectly reasonable. But I think because of what Palmer's got coming up, I think the idea of flipping, like people have gone Saka to Son this week, perfectly understandable, is going to be way more difficult in future weeks. If you bought Palmer this week, as an example, and then you're looking at game week 11 and Palmer's got Arsenal and you're going, want to punt Son at home to Ipswich, and you know Palmer's then got that swing from 12, you're going to find that move way more difficult than you would have done for just this week with obviously the Saka doubt, etc., etc. If you were wildcarding now, Suj, like Clayton might be considering doing, and you went for two of these, what do you think you'd go for? Let's just say at the moment Saka's fit. Let's work on that basis.
Are we also working off the basis that I am having Erling Haaland in my wildcard team or not? Because if you're wildcarding this week, how do you wildcard without Erling Haaland at home to Southampton? How do you do that?
You say that, but then I did that in 3 because I looked at the longer term structure.
Yeah.
Although I didn't think he'd get a hat trick at West Ham, admittedly.
Yeah. Okay, let's assume that you're not. Let's assume you're doing a game.
Take Haaland out of the conversation.
Strategy. Yeah, let's assume he's not there. Salah and Son, with a view to moving Son to Palmer in 12.
Do you think Salah better over the next 3 than Palmer?
Salah would just be there for forevermore. I think he'd be, if I wasn't going to get Erling Haaland, I'd keep Salah for a little while.
It's so interesting, right? Because literally,
the yellow cards are influencing me.
This is how your mind will play tricks on you as well, a little bit, right? Palmer's just gone to Liverpool, admittedly. Had I done it last week, I think I would have gone Palmer and Foden last week, if I'd have been on wildcard last week.
Yeah, because everyone expected Foden to play.
And I'd have been setting Foden to go to Saka, I think. So now the Jota problem is really bringing Mo back into my mind. Interestingly as well, I mean, I think captaincy-wise, if you were looking to captain from this group over this next 3 weeks, I think you'd want to go one of De Bruyne or Foden at the weekend, but you'd be quite happy to go Palmer against Newcastle, and it's probably the safer play. 10, I guess, is probably Mo at home to Brighton. Probably. They do play in the Champions League 3 days after. 11 is probably Sonny, isn't it? Home to Ipswich.
Yeah. Yeah.
Once you then hit 12, rotation for captaincy between Palmer and Salah, I think particularly, is pretty good. You'd be looking at something like Southampton or Leicester away, then Villa at home, Southampton away, Everton away, Brentford at home, Everton away, Leicester at home, Ipswich away, Crystal Palace away. You're into 2025.
Decent.
Yeah, and it's them too.
The Villa game, tricky.
Saka, and I captained Saka, the 2 really good home fixtures he had. One worked out, one didn't, despite underlying being very similar in the 2 games. He doesn't feel like a player that I'd want to captain much, and people say you don't have to, and that's completely right. But if on this strategy, and you might be taking Haaland on as part of this, there probably are times where you want to look at it. His best fixture between now and the end of the year is Ipswich at home. In the same week, Salah's got Leicester at home. And would you even go Saka at home to Ipswich rather than Palmer at home to Fulham? Close. It's not like you haven't got a good alternative if you went Saka and Palmer.
Saka at home to Ipswich, Palmer away at Fulham.
Home to Fulham.
Home to Fulham. I'll take the Saka at Ipswich.
Probably.
I'll take the Saka Ipswich fixture. Yeah.
That's game week 18.
That's a way away. A lot will happen between now and then.
Yeah, Sonny, I don't think there's too many. There's a case to say out of these premiums, Sonny might be best for captaincy in game week 13. But let's throw this one to you. Palmer versus Villa or Son versus Fulham?
Away or at home?
Both at home.
Then Son.
Fulham strong defensively.
But at home, you'll create chances. And Villa are strong I mean, if you turn around and say Villa haven't got Konsa and a couple of other players missing, then I can understand that. But Palmer at Villa, I mean, if Unai Emery's got any sense, he'll stick Kamara on Palmer and say, just don't let him out of your sight. Simple as that. So you don't know what will happen tactically. Yeah.
I don't think it is as simple as that. The other two really good fixtures that Sun has before the end of the new year is Southampton away and Wolves at home. And on those 2 dates, all the other premiums have good fixtures.
Yeah.
So again, you don't have to be captain this sort of player. But I think, yeah, if I was on wildcard now, I'd probably be putting Sun in, but with a view to move Sun on.
Move to Palmer. Yeah, eventually. I'd want to be able to, let's just put it this way. If I wasn't going Salah, if I was going Palmer and Son, for example, I'd want to make sure I had a pathway to Salah.
The data so far, and you have to obviously give the caveats of restricted minutes for Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden, suggests that the pricing, I would say, is correct in terms of the scale of the players.
The output versus where they're priced. Yeah.
Essentially.
There's a bit of a leap up to Salah, but he carries a lot of historic
non-penalty XG so far. Salah and Palmer comfortably clear of the others. So Salah 3.3, Palmer 3.9, then it's down to Saka at 2. It's worth saying they've also played more minutes than the other guys, right? So Saka's got 7 starts, Son 6, KDB 4, Foden 1, whereas Salah and Palmer have started all the games. XA, Saka has a big jump.
He does.
3.2. The next best out of premiums, unbelievably, is Kevin De Bruyne.
I don't know if there's any influence on that on set pieces. Saka takes all the corners. Salah obviously doesn't. I don't know if Cole Palmer's on corners. He's not on corners, is he?
Corners, basically, in terms of the 6 players, Palmer's taken 19 so far this season.
Oh, he has, yeah.
Saka 25. Kevin De Bruyne 24, despite only starting 4 games. Phil Foden 5, obviously assisted John Stones' winning goal at the weekend from a corner. In terms of like crosses overall, so this would add in wide free kicks and open play crosses on top. That jumps Saka to the top at 42, Palmer 32, De Bruyne 29, Salah only 10 is a surprisingly low.
Considering the narrative is that he's been stuck out wide a lot more.
Yeah.
But he's never been a prolific crosser of the ball, is he?
No. Is that a cross or a pass for Curtis Jones at the weekend? It's a cross, isn't it?
Email Opta.
Do you know how much they charge, boss? No, I'm not on that basis at the moment. But yeah, it's Saka's creativity that really pulls him back in line with the others. Because actually, if you combine non-penalty XG and XA so far this season, then the numbers become quite close, right? So Salah would be 4.9, Palmer, sorry, not 4.9, yeah, 4.9. Palmer jumps to the top of that, 5.8, Saka 5.2, and that's where I think some of this narrative has come about Mo.
The thing that's, I mean, fascinating for me is obviously the whole talk is Kevin De Bruyne so much better for Erling Haaland. And when Kevin De Bruyne played in the first 4 games and Erling Haaland was going batshit, he was the guy. How many assists has Kevin De Bruyne got all season?
He's only started 4 games, Suj.
Yeah, but that's 4 games where Man City scored how many goals?
Yeah, but how unlucky was he?
Well, this is it.
In some of them as well. Like the Ipswich and the West Ham games. With some silly. The West Ham game he got a 1 point was absurd.
But look, his non-pen XG is 1.2. How many goals has he scored? 1. His XA is 2.2. How many assists has he got? 1. So in theory, according to the expected data, all he's done is underperform it by 1 assist.
Yeah, if you look at
eye test will tell you different though.
Really importantly, this is obviously small sample, particularly obviously for Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden, who's effectively played just over 2 matches so far in the Premier League this season, right? If you look at non-penalty XG, the order of them would go like this. So this is per 90 minutes. So it's Palmer first, 0.51. Remember I said to you yesterday, Garnacho's hitting like 0.5 per 90. That's why I said I'm very interested in him. Salah 0.43. All this data is from FBref, by the way. Saka 0.32, Son 0.31, KDB 0.30, Foden 0.14. So there's a jump. So Saka XG, similar level to Son and KDB. Then there's a jump clearly up to Salah and then actually up to Palmer. It's also worth having the caveat that I think it's fair to say that Salah and Palmer have had the best of the fixtures so far. You have to factor that in. Arsenal have had,
Definitely.
I think, a more difficult run of fixtures. XA, KDB's top per 90, 0.55. Then Saka Foden 0.52. Then Saka 0.51, and it drops down to Palmer 0.25. So what you've got is you've got two players really threatening in terms of their output for goals, which is Salah and Palmer. And there are things that will skew a little bit, like Palmer obviously having a lot. I mean, Palmer could have got 6 against Brighton. He could have got more than the
Huge
4.
monster. Yeah.
So there's one huge fixture in there. Whereas the creativity really is there from Saka, KDB, Foden. Son doesn't fall near the top of like any of the metrics, but you also know the right fixture at the right time has the explosiveness to really hold.
Yep.
He's arguably, if you said, I guess if you looked at it and you said which player on here is most likely to get you a hat trick in a given game, he's probably Son after Salah, isn't it?
Palmer,
Yeah, maybe.
because Palmer's on pen. I mean, Sonny's on your pens, isn't he? We don't know really.
We're not sure.
Could be Solanke.
We're not sure.
That Salah's already had 2 penalties this year so far as well. Palmer's had 1. None of the others have touched a penalty yet. So Salah, you could say that he scored 5 goals. 2 of them are pens.
Yes.
That boosts his XG quite a bit.
Yeah, and then you're looking at that and going, oh, he's only got 8 attacking returns, only 8 attacking returns from 8 games. But Bukayo Saka is 9 attacking returns from 7.
Yeah, with no penalties in that. So
with no penalties so far, and we assume that he is the penalty taker, right?
Yeah.
Cole Palmer, of course, is 11.
Is what we're saying here, James, that you need to know that they're all capable. They're all showing numbers that show that they are. The winner of FPL this season is going to be the person that times it right between jumping through these guys and catching the hauls.
Well, yeah, this is almost part of the point as well. Because like I said, I think for me, and whether we like it or not, there is an influence on value. It's like I'm looking at things, say, like after this week and thinking, can I jump off Watkins for a couple, right? Tottenham away, Liverpool away, and then we've got Chelsea away a couple after that. Can I jump something for a little bit and go back? And you do look at it and you think, he's 9.1. He's been really consistent lately. He's probably going to hit 9.2 ahead of the weekend against Bournemouth or just afterwards. Do I want to sell? Or am I happy to go, right, that's a consistent animal. I just leave it there. With Palmer, same thing, right? Plus, I know with Palmer, those fixtures are a joke from like Gameweek 12 onwards. I'm never going to be comfortable to move him unless he is like suspended or injured, right? Also, though, bear in mind what I said about the Palmer and the Salah rotation. If I did end at Gameweek 12 where I hit that point and I've got Palmer and Salah, I'm not sure how much I'm moving them. Because even if you go, all right, Salah's got City in 13 and then what, Newcastle away in 14. The best to jump would probably be what, Son for Fulham at home, Bournemouth away? Mate, it don't feel worthwhile, mate.
No.
So City's at home as well, Newcastle away. Yeah, Brighton have just won there. I don't think it's as scary as it has been in the past. So if I landed with Palmer and Salah, I don't think that's moving for a while. And then I'm cut off Saka for quite a long period. I don't think I'd be so bothered about Son.
No, the other thing is, I've got, let me ask you a question. Would you rather own Saka and Solanke or Son and Havertz?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I think the value probably works out to the same.
I think,
give or take a couple of pips.
I think Saka and Solanke. I'd tell you why I think that as well. I think when we're thinking about these players, I think Son is one that you really feel you need to time right. Well, I'm talking about Palmer and Salah as being like holds, and Saka generally we're looking at, especially with the creativity aspect of him, we're looking at him as a kind of a solid player to keep hold. Son, you wouldn't need to go more than 2 blanks and you start getting itchy fingers about him, I think.
Yeah, you see, I think I'd rather go Saka and Solanke as well. I think I'd rather go Saka and Solanke as well.
But maybe
But
for me, the answer is more like Salah and Havertz, right?
yeah, if I was to sell Saka to Son, I would want some Arsenal attacking coverage, and the next go-to person for me would be Havertz.
Yeah.
But whilst I own Solanke, I don't feel the pressure to get some. I
So
might buy some only because if I only want to make one transfer this week rather than make two, because I need to make two to go from Saka to Palmer, I need to make two. So the easier choice for me, if I don't want to make a second transfer, is just go Saka to Son, and then figure out what my combo move, let's say, would be next week.
if I went, say, the moves had said, say, sort of like Jota to Garnacho and then went Saka to Salah and just got that in place, went, that's it now, then I'd probably looking at, I'm moving Solanke in 12, aren't I? At that point, I can go Havertz or Jackson, but it's probably not both. And I quite like the idea of having a front three that's actually got three of the kind of five in and around that area. If you add in Alexander Isak, who doesn't feel like an option at the moment, but might do. They've got good fixtures from around about that period of the swing as well. But every time I look at it, it either looks like both Arsenal assets or neither Arsenal asset. If I look at things on the plans, which is quite interesting. I really like the idea of having Jackson.
Yeah. Yep. Good player. Good price as well right now, 7.9. Can't argue with that.
Also, once you take this strategy, there's another psychological impact of this. If people do take this strategy and decide in a few weeks or next week or whenever that they're generally going to downgrade Erling Haaland, and again, I'll repeat, I don't necessarily recommend anyone does that because it's tough. But if people do, psychologically, they are going to be drawn to Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden because I don't have Man City coverage. It's been a theme every week on my streams. Oh, what about Savinho? What about Doku? What about Grealish? It's like, I've got to have a light blue shirt in now. And it's not like their fixtures aren't good, particularly once you hit the sort of like game week 14 again as well. It is.
Yeah, but if you sell Erling Haaland, you can afford Gvardiol. Just get Gvardiol in and...
that's your blue shirt, is it?
That's your blue shirt.
Nathan Ake's fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
There will be times where you want to go for a KDB Foden as well. Also, there is another point here as well. If you continue to take on Haaland and Salah, I think you can work three of these guys in.
Potentially. Maybe not so much if you keep Trent.
It can be done.
Of course, yeah.
I've got 1.6 in the bank. I'm just shy of Jota to Foden. Won't take much.
But it will cut you off Salah.
I could go Raya to Sells. I could go Raya to Sells as an example. And I think I can throw that from Jota to Son.
Not bad.
And then I'm sitting there with Son, Palmer, Saka. Now, that might be useless for me if Saka's a problem, right? But that's another way of doing this as well, is consider having three. And at that point as well, if you are sitting there with three and you're unhappy with it, how difficult would it be to go, right, I'm going Saka to Salah and I'm going Son to Bowen or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's done,
I don't think it's we should not disregard that midfield slot below. So Bowen and Bomo, like there's value in there as well, whether you fancy Mitoma if he gets back into the team, well, when he gets back into the team, Odegaard when he's fit, Bruno Fernandes when Man United's fixtures get good. You're going to want some of them as well. Like you don't need to just have premium. So you don't need to go to three of these is my counterpoint to that.
No, but if you were sitting there with a midfield that looks like Palmer, Saka, Son, Bumo, and Rodgers as a fifth, and you have that rotating with a kind of a João Pedro price point, it still allows you like Watkins and Jackson or Watkins and Havertz up front or something like that as well.
Yep, Solanke,
whichever you choose. That's with me having Trent, Gabriel and Porro as my back three and Raya as the goalkeeper.
So it's solid. It's solid. It's really interesting. What do we say, James? Listeners, play it your way.
I say Saka's potentially on the chopping block for me this week.
Me too. The most likely move I'll make is to go to Son. because as a cartel, that's what we decided the right move to do would be, and we're all going to stick together with that move. Nah, it'll be some because it's the most affordable move for me without having to make 2 transfers. Should I pick up another injury this week, like with the European football? That changes everything. So my hand may get forced, and that may be the situation for many of you. So keep your powder dry is the advice. Wait until Thursday, and we know what's happened with the European fixtures, because all of the big teams are playing.
Yeah, but if you're sitting there, I mean, we've got 3 free transfers. I did think about this a bit last night. I did think, should I just throw Saka's son now? Which I wouldn't like to do because I haven't got all the info. And the big thing for me on that was, well, Son might play Thursday night. But it does enable, the more you've got in the bank, the more you can take that chance to go. I think if I'd have had 5 free transfers, Suj, I think I'd have done that last night.
Interesting.
And gone Saka's son. It also makes me conscious about rolling towards that for that purpose as well.
I would have only done that if I knew for sure Saka was out. I don't think I would have pulled the trigger and gone early unless I knew Saka was out.
Well, I think for me to keep Saka this week, I'm now looking at it. I need to know he's going to play. I think. When you look across their next 7 now, Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea next 3 is obviously quite challenging, particularly with Newcastle, Chelsea away. Forest at home is kind of the green fixture over the next 7. And Forest are putting up really good defensive numbers as covered. I think they're XA second best in the league, maybe. They too, it's worth acknowledging, have had good fixtures so far, and it stiffens up for them soon. Then it's West Ham away. Yes, I know you got 6 there last year, Suj, but or not you. They got 6
at ours, mate.
But yes, yeah, it's not a great fixture on paper, is it? Then it's United. What United you get, and Fulham away is a challenge as well. So I might cut.
Yes.
Doesn't feel comfortable though. That's the thing as well. Whenever you sell any of these players, it's the same for like if people are genuinely thinking of doing it with Haaland in the near future. And it's the same when you sell any of these players. Anytime you sell a player like this, unless they're injured, there's a chance they're going to hammer you straight away because they're good players, right?
And that's why it makes the decision so difficult. There's not going to be a conclusion to this. Ultimately, as we always say, play it your way and make your own decisions. Jump in the comments on YouTube and let us know what your thoughts are on your strategy. Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? Which 1? Which 2? Which 3 are you thinking about? And let's join in the conversation.
Don't go none.
That's definitely one bit of advice I would
don't
definitely
have Bumo as like your most expensive like midfielder.
Yeah, I don't actually know how you would, like, unless you really.
It was 7-6 last night, I think, Boomer.
Unless you like having money in the bank, maybe. Listeners, tomorrow we're back at you, Clayton and James show tomorrow, where you guys will cover off the game last night and Clayton's potential wildcard as well as a bunch of other topics. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening to that. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/Planet FPL. Today's additional content, James, you've got UCL fantasy, have you, before Champions League kicks off again? It's already out. A Tottenham tomorrow reviewing the Planet FPL derby will be one not to miss either. But most importantly, stay safe, look after yourselves. Thanks for listening and ciao for now.
Thanks, everybody. Be nice to each other. Play it your way. Cue music, please, man. Ciao.